Good evening and welcome back to my channel. I just got back from a really nice Galentine's brunch in London, just off of Oxford Street, so right in central London. And this is to kick off my week because I really just want to make the most out of my free time. I feel like I'm not being efficient with it. I'm not making the most out of the time that I have because we do have a limited amount of it. So I really want this week to be the start of me making the most out of all of my free time, and that is primarily focused on my weekends and my evenings. My mornings, I do like to have a bit of a slow morning to just set myself up for the day, but my weekends and my evenings, I feel like I'm not using them to the best of my abilities. And so I decided to start off this week with a bit of a Galentine's brunch because I have not been as social as I want to be just because of the weather and feeling a bit stressed out and unsure of things. But this is really, it's just been so nice to get out. Often on Sundays I do not, or I stay very local, but it was really nice to actually go into London on a Sunday. The weather was pretty nice, we had a bit of sunshine, and it was just nice to catch up with people that I don't see very often. So for this week, I'm mostly going to be focusing on my evenings after work and just making the most out of them. For today, I do want to read The Secret History. Now, I'm about halfway through this. I did start reading this in a previous video, so I've mentioned some of my thoughts there. However, now, as I said, I'm about halfway through and I'm not really enjoying it as much as I had been. At the start, I was really interested. I liked learning about the main character and the main cast of characters as well, and their relationships and what was developing. However, I'm now at a point where I'm not really that interested, or it's kind of taken a turn that I'm not enjoying reading and I'm not finding myself wanting to pick it up that much. I do have this as an audiobook, so I have been doing an immersive read and also been listening to the audiobook. I'm not gravitating towards it. I'm not finding myself wanting to pick it up all the time as I usually do if I'm really interested in a book, but I do want to finish it. I don't want to DNF it. I want to know what happens and I want to give a proper rate and review of it because this is a book that I've been wanting to read for quite a while. I'm just not loving it right now and it's feeling a little bit, it's just gone off of what I originally thought would happen, and it hasn't gone off in a good way. I'm just kind of feeling like it's a bit dragging, it's a little bit dull. I'm getting a little bit bored with the characters and the dynamics and the events that are occurring, but I do want to finish it, so I'm hoping to read this and listen to this over the next couple of days at the start of this week and finish this off. Something that has helped me make the most out of my free time has been my hobbies and also self-studying, so I do want to bring that into this week, of course with reading, but also I want to progress a little bit in my self-study of art history and history. I do also want to do some cozy gaming because I have a Switch and I haven't used it in a while, but I've been really wanting to, so I want to do maybe one of the evenings this week where I just do some cozy gaming and kind of ignore the world and have a bit of a break and do some of that. I personally love playing Mario Kart. That's pretty much all I play. I do have Hogwarts Legacy and Dreamlight Valley, but my favorite is usually Mario Kart. I also have the other Mario game, which I might play as well, but generally that's kind of what I want to do. And then I found out that the Royal College of Arts, which I think is a gallery in London, they do workshops, classes and lectures, and they do them in person and also online. I definitely want to go to some of the in-person ones. However, I found out that they have one online next Saturday morning, and so I do want to pencil that in and use that as a way to kind of conclude my week. I also really want to do some sketching. I actually decorated my new A3 sketchbook in my previous video and I really just want to start in that. I've been feeling so cool to do it. I definitely feel some resistance to it because every time I start drawing, I get frustrated that I'm not as good as I want to be. I get irritated with the results and I just don't love what I end up with, but I just want to, one, enjoy it because it's something that I really, really enjoy, and also take my time with it, allow myself to practice and progress and enjoy that whole process. So I do want to start drawing in my sketchbook this week as well. But for now, for tonight, it's time to read The Secret History.
Good morning. It has been such a hectic and busy week, and it's derailed me from a lot of my hobbies, and it's meant that I haven't had as much free time as I would like, which, whilst it can be disappointing and a bit of an annoyance, it's okay because it happens sometimes. And it's just meant that I want to prioritize my hobbies and things like that over this weekend. So whilst I didn't get many things that I wanted to do done during the week, I still have the weekend that I can really make the most of. Now, I did end up DNFing The Secret History, which is so sad, but I just got to maybe, I think 60%, and I was just bored. I didn't like the characters. They were all annoying me because I didn't like any of them, which might have been part of the plan of the story, but because of that, I just didn't care what happened to any of them. The decisions they were making were annoying me. What had happened after the midpoint was just kind of getting worse and worse. It was more dull, it was more dreary, I was getting bored quite a lot. I did listen to a lot of this as an audiobook, and yet I still struggled. So for me to DNF it whilst listening to an audiobook, it takes a lot because I do tend to love audiobooks. So yeah, I did DNF that, which is so sad. That's actually my second DNF of the year so far, which is so sad. The first one I DNF'd was When the Moon Hatched, and now it's The Secret History, which I've read after one another, which is so sad. And so I did feel myself falling into a little bit of not a reading slump, but just not feeling as excited to read because I've had two DNFs one after another. So I decided to pick up a book that, for me, when I start to feel that type of way, I will tend to pick up books that either I've already read and do a reread, or by an author that I already like, and so I can continue reading the world that they've created. So which is what I've done this time. So I am currently reading Air by Sabaa Tahir. This is a spin-off from the Ember Quartet, which I had so much fun reading. I really enjoyed it. I read that towards the end of December and the start of 2026. It was just such a perfect way to get through the winter season, or the main kind of winter block, and to read that series. It was so good. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I think overall the series is like a 4.25 star series, but I really connected to the story. It's a YA fantasy with a few darker themes. There's some romance in there. We have a great cast of characters. I really enjoyed so many of the side characters, so many of the friendships and relationships that developed and were developing. There were some heartbreaking moments throughout, and especially towards the end of the book, but then there were also some things that really went well. And Air is a spin-off of that series. So this is the first book in a duology. So this is the first book in a duology, and I am literally on chapter 3, so I'm very early on. I have not had as much time to read this week, and I realize it's because I've been watching Love Island. So every evening when I usually would read, I've actually instead been watching Love Island, so I haven't progressed in this as much as I would otherwise. But the Ember Quartet is these 4 books. I'm not sure if you can see it, but the first one is An Ember in the Ashes, the second is A Torch Against the Night, the third is A Reaper at the Gates, and the fourth is A Sky Beyond the Storm. I did read these in various vlogs, which I will try to show up here if I can find them. But this is, like I said, a spin-off. I think it's set about 20 years later, so we're getting basically the next generation of the main characters in the first book, which I'm really liking. I'm still very much at the introduction of the different characters, who's who, who's connected to which characters from the previous series, but I think this is going to be perfect for me to get me out of my bit of a slump. I think also because I've been stressed this week, I felt very tired. I felt like things have not been going my way. I think reading a book that I'm pretty certain I'm going to enjoy because it's a world that I already love, that this will help bring me out. But that is what I'm currently reading. I did do some art history studying earlier in the week. I think one of the evenings, maybe for half an hour. I have realized that I have too many hobbies that I'm trying to cram into the week. So what I've done is I did set up another schedule and tracker. I basically listed out all of the hobbies that I have in my life, and I've made it a tracker so I can see which ones I'm doing every week, and if I realize I haven't done one in a month, then obviously that's one that I want to pick up and prioritize that week. But it's just going to be a way for me to see which ones I'm focusing on, see which ones maybe I've forgotten, and also maybe at the start of each week I will see which ones I think I have time for, which ones I'm really feeling connected to that week. I think my personal favorite ones are reading and art. I really want to do some sketching, drawing, and all of that. So those are my 2 priorities. And then the other ones I think are just going to have to mix and match in different ways. I asked a question on my TikTok of how other people kind of set up their own personal curriculum, and someone said that they basically have a timetable that they alternate. You basically have a timetable and then you can make that like a week A, week B timetable. You can do it in semesters and that kind of thing. The only thing with that is my hobbies and those kind of things, they do very much change with my mood, and my mood can be affected by multiple things, whether that's the amount of energy I have, the season we're in, how sunny it's been, whether I've had enough time to sleep, whether I've had enough time to socialize. And because all of that plays into what hobbies I want to do when, I don't think it's valid for me to do a timetable, because I'm probably not going to stick to it because it's going to feel restrictive and not enjoyable. So instead, setting up this tracker I think will help me just have a clear picture of all the hobbies I kind of have in my life and see which ones I want to pick up that week. Like I said, I think reading is going to be the main one and will continue to be, but I do want to make art a bigger priority. And honestly, the busyness of this week has made me realize that no matter how long your to-do list is, it's still so important to make time for you, whether that is half an hour reading, whether that is doing a quick workout, whether that is trying to make sure you get extra sleep, whether that is making time to have your tea in the morning, whatever it is. This week has really just triggered that in me. I mean, it's also made me realize that I have improved so much, because before, if I would have a stressful week like this, I would be so sad the whole week. I would be frustrated, I would be annoyed that I'm not getting to do what I want to do. And whilst I had glimpses of that, I definitely didn't have it as much as I used to. So that is growth. And I'm still making time to do things for me in the evenings when I can, and looking forward to the weekend to do that more. So that has definitely been silver lining of this week, I guess. But my plan for this weekend is, first, I do want to do some reading. I do want to do some cozy gaming. Okay, I did not get to do the cozy gaming evening in the week like I had originally planned, so I'm hoping to do that tonight. I also want to get on my art sketchbook. I want to draw, I want to sketch. I did initially think that I would have a sketchbook per project, and my first project was going to be fantasy worlds in books, in movies, all of that kind of vibe. However, I am changing my mind on that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sketch whatever I feel called to, and I'm just going to allow that to kind of be like a sketchbook journal thing where I don't have a specific project. I mean, if something really calls to me and I end up working on that for 3 months, then that's great, but I'm not going to pressure myself into constantly working on the same theme if that's not something that I feel called to. So I'm just going to allow myself to practice and experiment with different things that give me inspiration. Tomorrow morning there is a online class that I do want to attend. It's like an online lecture, which I actually need to sign up for and pay for today before I forget, but I do want to do that tomorrow morning. And then I do have a few errands to run over this weekend. I am traveling in a couple of weeks, which I think is causing a little bit of the stress because it's just added to that, but I do need to make some time for that this weekend as well, and then hopefully I will get to do some sketching and things like that and continue reading. That's where I'm at. It's been a busy, hectic week, but I have a whole weekend to enjoy, to thrive, to make the most out of my time, and to not let it go to waste. So that's the plan. Good afternoon. So I did in fact run a few errands today, and I went on a really nice walk because it has been sunny all day, which has been so wonderful. I actually downloaded Air as an audiobook, and so I've been doing an immersive read, but then when I went on my walk I was listening to the audiobook, which has been great, and it's been so nice to get back into this world. I think it's really going to bring me out of the reading lull that I've been in, which is very much needed because DNFing 2 books in a row
that I was really looking forward to reading was not fun at all. So I'm hoping this really brings me out of it, and I'm enjoying it so far. This morning I did in fact join the online sketching class. This was with the Royal Academy of Arts, and they have online ones. They also have in-person classes and courses. I haven't been to any of the in-person ones yet. I will probably go to those more in spring and summer. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. But this online class was really, really good. It's the first online live class that I've been to. I've only ever done classes on Skillshare, but because this was live, it just felt a lot more fun. And also this one was based on drawing figures, so there were models that were in different poses, and we went through a few different exercises where we drew each of the poses. Some of them we did sketching for 2 minutes, some of them were longer than that, and during that whole process the artist was explaining how they draw, what they focus on, what things to prioritize first, especially if you're drawing for a shorter amount of time, maybe what things to look at later on, and just their process. And then we could also ask questions and they would answer as well. So it was a really, really good class. It made me reconnect with drawing again. These are some of the sketches that I've done. Now I did use my A5 sketchbook, which I haven't used in so long. So a lot of the sketches that are in the first half of this book are from almost a year ago, I think. But here are some of the sketches that I did. This was like a 2-minute one. It's quite faint, so I'm not sure if my camera's going to pick it up. But then we did some longer ones as well, and this is what I ended up with. Like I said, it was a really fun way just to get back to sketching again, and I found that when I was drawing this time round, I was not worried about the result. I was not stressed out. I was really just enjoying the process and practicing. Now, I don't know if that's because it was a class format or because it's been a shift in my mindset, which is great because that's something that I've been trying to work on, especially when it comes to drawing, because it's something that I really enjoy. But I tend to get frustrated with myself when it doesn't go the way that I plan, or I tend to overdo it and not just allow myself to enjoy. So that's something that I'm definitely working on, and I'm hoping that I can improve upon that as the next few weeks go. But I really enjoyed this class. They do this like sketching class once a month, and then like I said, they do other courses and classes as well. So I will try and do a few more as we move through spring and summer, and I'm hoping that this won't be a hobby that I drop in the colder months, but we're gonna have to see how that goes. I do definitely want to sketch more often. I want to make more time for it. I think my main hobbies are going to be reading and sketching, and then the other things, the things like scrapbooking and my book journal, even the other self-study aspects are probably going to be a bit in the background, and hopefully the reading and the sketching will be the main focus. Not only sketching, but also painting and just art in general, just working through my sketchbook. So I want to experiment with that, play with that, and just have fun with it. This week has really taught me that even when you have a limited amount of free time, or it gets disrupted for whatever reason, whether that's work, stress, the amount of sleep you've had, whatever it may be, even just taking some time out for yourself, even when it's half the amount of time that you originally thought you would have, it still is going to help you so much. Like doing this morning and putting the focus on trying to sketch or doing this class and making time for something that I enjoy has made me feel so grounded, so refreshed, so realigned, and it's just changed how I feel internally, and I am so happy that I made time for it. So definitely as I move forward on the weeks where I do have less free time than I had originally planned, I want to make sure that I keep this in mind, that it's okay to maybe not do as many hobbies as I would usually do, but to still maximize the time that I have. I've also noticed that I need to stop putting so many hobbies into my week, or planning so many of them, because then I get overwhelmed, and instead of spending 2 hours on one hobby and really getting into it and really enjoying it and really having a fun result, I then break that up into 4 separate hobbies, and it feels like I'm jumping around and I'm not really enjoying each of them for what they are. So what I did end up doing earlier on in this week is I made a whole list of all of the hobbies I have. I then put this into another tracker, because yes, I do love my trackers, and this way I'm just going to be able to see as we move through the month which hobbies I have been doing a lot of, which ones I haven't been, and if there's any changes that I want to make. For example, if I notice that I haven't sketched in 3 weeks, then I know that in the upcoming week I want to make that a priority. So that is something that I have set up. Now I do have a lot of hobbies, and it feels like I'm constantly adding new ones into it. So I have my reading, I have art, I then have self-studying, which is art classes, it's English literature where I'm currently reading Pride and Prejudice, and then I want to develop that further. It's studying art history and history. And then I also have my kind of crafty hobbies, which are things like book journaling, scrapbooking, those kind of things. And then I guess another hobby is going to museums and galleries and stuff like that. So I'm really trying to figure out how to ensure that I enjoy all of these. And I think for me, the museums and galleries are going to be kind of once a season type of thing. The scrapbooking, book journaling, those I think I might do either at the end of every month or every 6 weeks or once a season, because previously I was doing them maybe every week or every other week, and that was okay at the start because I was trying to catch up on a backlog of things that I hadn't incorporated. But now I think doing that monthly will actually be a nice reset that I can leave to the end, rather than making it part of every week and then not ending up doing anything else. In terms of the self-studying, the art history, the English literature, and is that everything? I'm not sure how I'm going to balance that at the moment. I think the art history and history I will probably do every other week, and the English literature I will do, I don't know. The English literature I will probably alternate between doing English literature and reading like a recreational book. So for me, right now I'm reading Air, and that's kind of like my recreational reading. And then for English literature, I'm reading Pride and Prejudice. So I think I want to alternate between those two. And then sketching, I'm going to try and make that more of a weekly, maybe bi-weekly thing. So I'm still looking into how to actually balance it. I don't want to set up a complete semester or tracker or timetable, because I know I'm going to end up throwing it out the window, or I'm going to get frustrated with it, or I'm going to end up on a week like this where I don't actually have as much time as I thought I would. And I had planned to do more things, and then I'll get frustrated with not being able to do all of them, or I'll end up rushing them rather than enjoying it. So I think I need to take a step back, really understand how much time I do have every week and what I can fit in to enable me to enjoy each of the hobbies without overwhelming myself, because I do tend to do that. So I'll see how that goes over the next few weeks, but that's something that I need to be mindful of. But that is how my week has gone. Thank you for spending the week with me as I try and maximize my free time, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.